Hamadakiapi, hello my relatives, my name is Tawny and we are back with another tutorial with Sister Beads. In this tutorial, we will be beading ourselves some fun little hoop earrings. For this project, we will be stepping away from our seed beads and utilizing delicas. These beads are a much more uniform cut, which will help us to ensure that our rows and stacks come out looking as even as possible. If you have created fringe earrings with us using our previous tutorials, this should be no problem. We will be using those brick stitch scales in order to make these hoops. As with all of our creations, there are an endless amount of fun color combinations for you to choose from, even switching up how you put the beads on the hoop and where and how many, depending on what the style is that you're going for. I do ask that if you are not an Indigenous person and you wish to create more earrings using this video, please refrain from profiting off of these patterns as a way to help us uplift Indigenous artists and in accordance to the 1990 Indian Arts and Crafts Act. You are free to make as many for yourselves or to give as gifts. Please take that into consideration as we go forward. Wopila, thank you. All right, let's talk about what you're going to find in your packet. Once you open it up, you should pull out this card. On this card, you will see that there is a length of thread wound around it. Underneath that thread, there should be one needle. So the thread we're using is NYMO size B. The needle is a John James English beading needle, size 10. There will also be your pair of hoops in there, and these tiny little hoops measure about 1 1/8 inch across, nice and little, and are going to be really fun when we finish them. You also are going to have different colored delica beads. Depending on your packet, you may have blue, you may have purple. We wanted to give a couple of different options. So this color may be different, but every other one should have white, red, turquoise, and black in order to follow this pattern that we will be creating. All right, and just like we've done in other tutorials, I am going to be showing you how to do this using some items on a larger scale. So I've got some pony beads here in 2 different colors, and then I've got this embroidery hoop that is going to serve as our stand-in hoop earring. As you'll notice, I only am using 2 different colors, and there are several different colors in our pattern, but I want to just be able to show you how these beads go onto the hoop. As you can see, the hoop earring is in the middle and we're doing beads on either side. So we're going to create one side at a time before moving on to the second side. And I'm just going to show you how these beads lay on there and then how we get the top one. So first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to take the string off your packet, cut it in half, right in half down the middle. And we're going to use that first length of string to make the earring. So first you're going to want to take your string and you're going to want to go ahead and tie it right on to your hoop using just a pretty simple double knot. And you're going to want to make sure that you leave yourself a pretty good sized tail, a couple inches long, because you're going to want to be working with that. Now take that knot that you've tied and we are going to make sure that it is all the way at the back. Oh, I tied my knot way too good here. But it's going to be all the way at the back. And when I mean the back of the earring, I mean the part that opens, not the post that goes into your ear. So I'm talking about the part that opens again. This is where your knot is going to go on your hoop. So I've got my double knot tied right on there. Then you're going to thread your needle. And you're going to go ahead and pull the thread about maybe 3/4 of the way, not quite halfway where the ends would meet up. So maybe about 3/4 of the way down, if that makes sense. All right, so now holding your hoop in your left hand, you're going to pick up your first bead. I'm going to do white to represent the bottom row and blue to represent the top row. So we pick up our first bead, pulling it all the way down until it's resting on the hoop. Taking your needle, you're going to go through the hoop towards you, pulling the string all the way through, making your making your bead lay down on its side. Now you're going to take your needle and you're going to pass through the hoop, pull, pull, pull until that bead is standing up nicely on its side. And you can push it back to make sure that it's all the way at the back. So there's bead number 1. Now let's do bead number 2. We pick the bead up, we pull it all the way down until it's resting on the hoop, pass under the needle, up through the bead, and pulling it through. So what's nice about this is as we get creating, you can pull the beads a little bit tighter to make sure that they lay nice. You don't want to pull them too tight because you don't want to have your strings end up all over the place. So you are going to notice that it's going to move around a bit once you get started, but that's okay because when it's all finished and together at the end, it's a lot more sturdy. So don't worry about that as we're getting started here. All right, so let's pick up the next bead. I'm going to pick up another one. We're going to pull it all the way down. We're going to pass underneath the hoop, pulling. That bead is laying on its side, and we're going to go through it again to pick it up and make it stand upright. All right, so we've got 3. Let's do another one. Let's do 4 all the way down, passing under the hoop, through that bead again. And now we got 4. Now let's continue this process until I've got 8 beads on here. All right, so let's pretend that we went all the way around this hoop and that we made it to the other side. Once you get to the other side, that's the completion of our first row. Now we're gonna make the second row. So saying that we've gone all the way around, we're simply going to flip our hoop around, and this is exactly where we're gonna pick up our brick stitch skills. Say that 3 times fast, brick stitch skills. So how do we start our second row of brick stitch? We pick up 2 beads. So we pick up 1, 2 beads. We don't go through our first bridge, we go through our second bridge because we're on to our second row. Second bridge, second row. We pass through both of those beads, making sure, this is where you're gonna wanna make sure this is pulled nice, is that first pass through. Then we go up through our second bead, making sure that they lay nice right on top of each other. All right, and now let's pick up our next bead, and we're gonna go through under our third bridge, pulling and up through that bead. See how those are laying nice on top of one another? Pick up our another one, go through the bridge. Oops, I got caught on here. Through our bridge, up through that bead. And then we're going to continue this on until we get to the end here. All right, so now we have completed one side of our hoop earring. So we've made it back. Our tail is sticking up here, or excuse me, our tail is over here. Our main thread we're working with is on top, coming out this top bead. Now it's time to switch over to the second side of our earring. So here's how we're going to get that started. So holding your hoop, we're going to take our needle and we're going to pass through this very first bead that we put on, making sure that we go underneath our hoop, and then we're going to be coming up on the other side. So again, we're going to pass through our first bead, making sure we come out underneath the hoop and pull, 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 not with knots, pull until we're coming out the other side. All right, and now here we're going to begin our next row of white, which serves as our first row for the second side. So we're going to pick up our white bead. We're going to pull it all the way down. Now for this first one, we're going to remember our knot is here and the first bead is right here. You're going to want to pass your needle right in between the knot and the first bead, through there, and then coming up through the hoop. Pull, oh, come on now. Pull, pull, pull. We're going to want to move that bead where it needs to be. All right, and you see how it's kind of facing this way? We're going to want to kind of naturally, it's going to turn a little bit. And we're going to pull that, and it should lay nice on its side, just like that. Now let's pick up our next bead, another white one. So we went in between the knot and the first bead. Now every time we're going to go in between whatever row comes next. All right, so we went in between here. Now for this second bead, we're going to go in between beads 1 and 2, in between, under the hoop, once again until it, sorry, I'm pulling my thread out a little bit, giving myself more room to work with. All right, making sure that it's laying down. Go up through that bead. There's our second one. Do you see how you are going right in front of the strings that are using to hold down the beads on the other side? So you're just going to see 2 strings as we continue on, and that's exactly what you're going for. All right, so we went in between 1 and 2. Now we're going in between 2 and 3. In between 2 and 3, pull it tight, up through that bead again. There we go, number 3. And number 4, in between the next 2 beads. Oops. Come on now, there we go. There's our next beads, and let's do another one. And we're going to finish this out until we're matched up with this other side. All right, now that we have finished, again, we're pretending that we went all the way around. Now that we have finished our first row, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did here. We're going to flip our hoop over, and we're going to use those brick stitch skills again. So when we start a new row, we pick up 2 beads. We don't go through the first bridge, we go through the second bridge. So through the second bridge, pulling all the way through, go through both beads the first time, and this is where you make sure that they're pulled nice and tight. And then we go up through that second bead and making sure these lay down nice right on top of each other. All right, and another bead through our next bridge. Give myself some more string. All right, and our next bead underneath our next bridge. Finishing off, going underneath each bridge until we get to the end of the row. All right, and there is our beads added on our hoop. 2 on this side, 2 rows on this side. But how do we finish? So remember how we passed through that first bead? That's exactly what we're gonna do again on this other side. So we're gonna take our needle, we're gonna pass through that first bead on the first row, and we're just gonna make sure we go under the hoop, through the bead, under the hoop, coming out somewhere on the other side. So once you get there, this is where you're just gonna have to find a place where your needle goes. So it can be under this first length, you can try doing it underneath here, wherever you can get your needle, but we're just gonna find a place where we can pass our needle underneath so that we can tie a knot. So we're gonna go 1. This string is really thick, so I don't think a double knot's gonna work for me, but I would recommend going through a second time to make this a double knot. But I would make that a double knot and then come out. I would pass through 1, 2 beads. Let's see if I can get that through there. Nope, that's gonna be too thick with my thick string, but I would come up through these 2 beads, pulling all the way so that you'd be coming out of this blue bead right here, and then you would snip that off. And then this loose tail, you're gonna wanna take your needle, add it to your tail, and then you're gonna wanna do the same thing. You're just gonna wanna pass, it's already tied in a knot because it's attached to the hoop. You're just gonna wanna pass it through some beads. You can go up, you can go down, pass it through, and then snip it off. And then there you have it. You're done. Congratulations.